Where does the buck stop at the IRS?
I mean, I think I've said clearly that all of this happened on my watch.
Are you aware of the Supreme Court decision, says United?
Yes, I'm aware.
You're aware of it. And you're aware of its holding, what it held?
What's that?
Are you aware of what?
In a general sense, I am.
And what was that? What's your understanding?
My best understanding is that corporations and other entities can give money to political organizations.
And are you aware?
But I'm not an expert in.
Are you aware that suddenly 501c4s were getting a lot of donations and spent a lot of money?
I'm definitely aware that there was a influx of 501c4 applications into the IRS.
Why do you need clarification from Congress? The law is very clear. It says you can't involve yourself in electioneering if you want this kind of tax-exempt status. I don't understand. Why isn't that just, again, passing the buck?
To this day, sir, I don't believe there is political motivation, as I've explained.
And that's kind of the way it went most of the day. Some testy exchanges and some not so testy exchanges inside a Senate Finance Committee hearing. Meanwhile, in a reversal from previous claims, the Obama administration now admits that the IRS did in fact inform a top White House lawyer last month about its investigation into improper scrutiny of conservative groups. But according to the administration, that lawyer, Kathleen Rumler, stopped short of sharing any information with President Obama.
She made the decision or the judgment that it was not necessary or appropriate to inform the president of this.
Throughout the escalating firestorm IRS scandal, the White House has maintained that it first learned about the issue through press reports, a notion that Republicans say they found highly suspect. The outgoing IRS commissioner said that it wasn't political partisanship, but foolish mistakes by federal employees. Trying to break this down, guys, into easily digestible and debatable parts. First of all, the White House. Is there anything to indicate at this point that the Obama senior administration or that the president himself had any idea what was going on, or even worse, ordered any of this?
She's a senior administration official. You just said it right here in the piece.
She's an attorney, isn't she?
Isn't she counsel to at the White House?
She's in the counsel's
She's
office.
in the counsel at the White House. That's a pretty highfalutin job. I mean, that's not.
But that's not a position to be able to say, "Hey, do this," and target conservative.
Right. But when she gets that, she goes to general counsel and says, "Hey, sir, this is what I've gotten so far," or chief of staff takes upon her direct report.
This is 16 days ago.
Right. This
was not at the time the thing was breaking. We've gone through about 4 years now of fictional scandals. The birther stuff, Benghazi, various manufactured conspiracies that the White House is the Muslim socialist gun confiscator. In that context, you finally have a real scandal. The problem is that the people who've been manufacturing the scandals don't know how to deal with a real one.
Richard,
and the way you deal with a real one is wait till you get the evidence. I did a lot of this investigating.
Richard, we appreciate your advice, but come on.
You undersell the information you have, and you let the evidence speak for itself. Right now, this is what we know. The IRS did something, and it was wrong. And 2 weeks ago, 16 days ago, a lawyer at the White House was told about an investigation.
Richard, this goes back further. First off, thank you for the advice for the Republican Party. We appreciate that.
Well, someone's got to help you out of your own way.
The Speaker said that this weekend at the same point, saying don't over-promise on this one. Sit back, let things happen, see where they go.
No one's taking his advice.
That's what happens to any party that doesn't have a president. That's not unusual. But let's back up on. Let's look at this first off. It was I think it was nearly a year ago when there was people from the IRS and over the summer that were testifying and were aware of this, and it was public. And people knew about it, and the president was being told by people, not in his administration. Richard, let me finish.
We call
Richard,
a lie.
let me finish.
When you lie, you get called out.
You haven't let me finish it.
The president wasn't told anything.
Richard,
Richard, to step in here.
It was public. Wait,
okay.
I didn't finish my point, though. It was public record. They were testifying in front of Congress in the Senate, and senators said to the IRS, "What is going on with this?" And they were, "I don't know." It was public. People knew about it. It was not in the. It was not done.
You lied
and
about.
I was.
You lied about the president's knowledge.
The president. What does he not hear anything that goes on in the world?
Well,
if I heard about this back then and it was public knowledge, why wasn't he aware of it?
But there's no indication that the president knew about
First
it.
of all, there's no evidence that the president knew about this. Second of all, if the president knew about this and didn't act on it, that would be an impeachable offense. So for the counsel, the chief White House counsel, to say that she didn't take it to the president, I mean, I have no problem.
That's
a month ago.
16
But
days
the,
ago.
word, the word I would use is what was used on this set last week. Plausible deniability. That's what we're talking about here.
But we can't
There's a
prove-
situation
but O'Brien,
that,
can we-
and
can
you
we-
can't, and you
but
can't
can we-
prove, you
can we
can't
prove
prove it
This
either.
is the
I'm-
2011
but the-
version of McCarthyism.
But this was
you don't
well-
have
this was
anything,
reported
and you're
before.
using slogans.
This was reported before in the public. It was in the public domain. If you go back and Google it, it didn't just come up 16 days ago. So therefore, I find it hard to believe that the people around the president weren't aware of it. If they didn't say something to it, it's on
I have
them.
in my
Because
list
if it's
of communists. I have in my hand a list. I'm just not going to show it to you.
If it's public information a year ago, as you're saying, where's the scandal? Because it didn't get
Oh,
pushed
it
off.
would- it would be a major scandal.
It didn't get pushed off. It didn't get covered up. It didn't get blocked from anybody finding out about it. If Darrell Ison knew about this a year ago,
The scandal is when I saw from the testimony last week what Miller gave when he spent all day in front of the House. He was talking about when he was previously asked and not being aware of things. I think it was July they were talking about when they asked those questions, and nobody followed up and did anything about it. Nobody at all paid
IRS
attention.
investigated.
There's Democrats on that committee asking the same question. They're sitting there when the Republicans are asking the question. It's out there. It's in the public discussion.
And therefore, the president knew.
But then follows through, though. The IRS planted a question in the audience, and that was their way to get around this from being
You're
out there?
shifting.
No,
there
but
was
I'm telling you that
wrong
the
done by the
IRS
IRS. This is not acceptable behavior. What you're trying to do, and your party's trying to do, and it's why you're going to fail, is somehow make a magical connection to Barack Obama and use that as a way of undercutting him politically. Knock yourself out. You're going to fail like you failed on the birth stuff.
Miller testifies in front of Congress and says, I don't think they were doing it intentionally. Well, who is they? He doesn't know who they are. He can't answer the question because he doesn't follow through to get the facts. The question this investigation is going to show, the answer is going to show, is who knew what when, whether it goes up there or not, and how far it gets into this administration. Jay Carney right now, when he goes up there and speaks, and I was listening to the radio on the way in, talks about things that he's asked questions, and he can't get the answers because even the White House isn't giving him the full briefing so he can go out and answer the questions
You know
when he gives a
what
briefing.
the White House is doing to Jay Carney?
This is no. He says something
You
one
know
day.
what they're saying.
Have you watched his press conferences? He says something one day, and the next day he's got to backtrack.
throwing
he's
a lot
right.
of darts at this
But
dartboard.
this is-
you really
but
are.
these
No,
are
he's right.
all-
Why am I giving him advice? This is the best way for the Democrats to survive a real scandal instead of the fake scandals these guys have been manufacturing. This kind of overreaction, this kind of accusation, this kind of irresponsible.
But the
behavior.
investigations will answer these questions. Is what I'm
Dominic,
saying.
does this
Richard.
get worse for the White House before it gets better? The IRS?
Well, I'm not going to accuse O'Brien of overreaching. If the Republican Party continues along the path that it's going, then Richard is correct. Most Americans will simply tune this out because they see it as, there they go again. But there is some substance to this. We'll never be able to prove or find out whether or not the president had knowledge of this. If he did, it would be impeachable. So that's not going to happen. I mean, a mistake was, like Richard said, a very bad thing happened at the IRS.
Polls so far show that there's general interest in these subjects, in the scandal trifecta, as it were, the AP, Benghazi, and the IRS, but that it's not impacting the president's numbers, at least in the CNN ORC poll. Is this just reinforcing everybody's position on where they are on the president and the GOP already?
Barack Obama is blessed in the character and nature of his opponents. A really smart way of dealing with this could actually have political consequences for him. Fortunately for Barack Obama, none of these guys know how to do that.
All right, we're gonna leave it there, and we're gonna move on to some more local issues after a quick break. When we come back, Garden State politics. New ad from the Barbara Buono campaign. It's a little sneaky, maybe causing a few chuckles, but is it also comparing herself to a perhaps more popular Democrat in the area who just appeared on the screen briefly? We're going to get into that and more when we come back. Stay with us.